It is now my pleasure to invite our first keynote speaker of the session, Peter Mather, who is European Vice President and Head of Country in the UK for BP. Peter, please.
Great, Stephen, thanks very much. It's great to be here at actually such an important conference, and as you say, Stephen, an important conference at an important time. As a contribution to our discussions today on responsible business, I want to talk about challenges and responsibilities. The challenges faced by my company, by my industry, and to a certain extent by all of us, and the responsibilities that we have as we face these challenges. I just want to start by talking a little bit about last year. In 2010, our company was involved in an accident that triggered a major spill and which led the United States government to shut down the deep water drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, but most importantly, cost the lives of 11 men. And no matter what else we remember about that accident, that will always remain our most grievous loss, the lives of friends and family members. So we face an enormous challenge today to earn back trust, the trust of the communities where we operate, our employees, our shareholders, our regulators, those that govern us, and our customers, of course. But we're determined we will once again restore this trust, and we realize this requires actions, not words. There are many actions we're taking, and there are many actions we think our industry needs to take based on what we have learnt since this accident. Last month, after we announced our annual results, one magazine ran a headline saying, "BP wraps up year to forget." Actually, that's not how we see it at all. Let me assure you, we will not ever forget 2010. Often the response to a tragedy or a major setback defines the character of an organization. And we are determined that we will emerge from this accident as a company that is safer, stronger, more sustainable, more trusted, and in time, more valuable. As well as meeting our commitments in the United States, we have a duty to take what we have learnt deeply into the fabric of our own organization. It means strengthening the way we manage our operations and concentrating on the things that drive long-term value: safety, capability, technology, portfolio choices, and relationships. And we have a number of responsibilities in this regard. We have a responsibility to the people of the Gulf Coast states of the United States, who are still feeling the after effects of the spill. We have a responsibility to the United States in general, and we're under no illusions about the task involved in rebuilding trust there. We have a responsibility to our employees, giving them renewed reasons to believe in the company they work for. We have a responsibility to our industry colleagues, so they can have confidence in us as a partner going forward. We have a responsibility to share what we've learned, to demand more of ourselves and from our industry overall. And of course, we have a responsibility to our shareholders, to our owners, to renew their faith in the value of the company, their company, and its ability to operate safely. So how are we meeting these responsibilities? Last year's crisis involved a response which included 48,000 people, 6,500 vessels, and 125 aircraft. That phase, thankfully, is over, but we're still very much in action in the Gulf, where we're going beyond, well beyond our legal obligations to do what is right. The Joint Incident Management Team is completing its response activities, and our Gulf Coast Restoration Organization is working towards the longer-term environmental and economic restoration of the affected areas. We've paid out over $5 billion to meet claims by individuals, businesses, and governments, and the natural resources damages assessment process is well underway. We continue to have a local presence through our state offices and our staff. We're supporting initiatives to promote tourism, as well as seafood testing and marketing. We have also voluntarily funded investment research to help restore the unique environment of the Gulf Coast, including an investment of $500 million in the Gulf of Mexico Research Initiative. Our internal investigation into the causes of the accident was completed last September, and we made that public in early September of last year. And we continue to cooperate with all the other inquiries that are in progress. But our responsibilities stretch further than the Gulf of Mexico. We have a responsibility to embed the learning from this accident across BP's global operations. And we're taking a series of steps to this end. We've created a powerful central safety and operational risk organization. This organization has the resources and the mandate to drive safe, reliable, and compliant operations, including significant intervention rights across BP's global business. Strengthening safety and earning trust are the foundations on which we will build a new value proposition for BP, designed to create value for the long term in a manner that is both safe and sustainable. And as I'm sure what will come as welcome news to many of you in the room, we're also resuming payment of a quarterly dividend. We are divesting non-strategic assets. We're investing in strategic projects in Russia, in India, in Brazil, in China, and elsewhere, with a very rich upstream portfolio. And we're increasing our investment in our exploration business. So having given you some insight into the specific challenges facing us at BP, let me stand back now and address the bigger challenges facing the energy industry. Energy is, of course, pivotal to our future. A reliable supply of affordable energy drove the industrial revolutions in Europe and in America, and it's now doing the same in Asia and in other parts of the developing world. Without energy, mankind loses heat, light, and mobility. Without energy, without enough energy, Europe and America cannot sustain the current standards of living, although we clearly can do this so much more efficiently than we are doing today. And without energy, the big developing nations, especially the twin giants of China and India, can never attain the living standards they quite understandably believe are also their right. So let's be clear about what all this means. Back in January, BP published our Energy Outlook 2030, looking at likely world energy trends. We estimate that by 2030, the world could be consuming as much as 40% more energy than it does today. That is the equivalent of adding today's United States energy consumption to world demand nearly twice over again. Meeting that demand will require investments of some 25 to 30 trillion dollars, more than $1 trillion per year over the next 20 years. And it's not just a question of meeting growing demand. We have to do so without destroying the environment, which involves reducing energy use and carbon emissions per unit of GDP. At present, the trends for both of these are pointing in the wrong direction. But this growth won't be coming from the United States, not so much from Europe. Almost all of it, we estimate over 90%, will come from the emerging economies, in particular China and India, Brazil, Russia. Paradoxically, whilst we become less dependent on oil, increasing overall demand for energy means that we will still need to find more of it. And we shouldn't forget the role of natural gas here. In fact, the fastest growing of the fossil fuels as we look forward. Supplies of natural gas are plentiful. The environmental impact is far less than coal, for example, and it is proven over many decades to be a secure and affordable source of energy, both in the power sector and directly into people's homes and businesses. With many of the world's major hydrocarbon basins now in decline, our industry will thus have no choice but to look to new and increasingly challenging frontiers. These include controversial areas such as the Arctic, unconventional resources, and yes, deep water exploration. Right now, the deep water provides an estimated 7% of the world's oil supply, rising to a projected 9% by the end of this decade. Blazing new trails always carries risk. At BP, we believe that our capability and our experience in operating at the frontiers gives us a continuing role in helping to meet this emerging world energy demand. But we will be doing this with a sense of great care and responsibility. One of our roles as a company is to help the world meet that increasing demand for secure, affordable, and sustainable energy. So you can summarize the 4 key challenges shaping the future of energy as follows: the growth of demand, the challenges of supply, energy security, and the environmental imperative. The work on demand shows us that the world is going to need, frankly, all the energy it can lay its hands on, at least in the medium term, from the widest range of geographical and material sources. And all sources of energy will have to be delivered as efficiently as possible if we are to avoid the economic and environmental consequences of rising prices and increased global emissions. On the supply side, renewables will grow quickly. That's good news, faster than any other energy sector. But they'll grow from a very low base. They'll grow at around 8% a year, we believe, out to 2030. But that will still not place them anywhere close to the major fossil fuel sources of supply by 2030. There are other exciting developments in energy. Biofuels. Biofuels will grow rapidly to contribute around 5 to 10% of liquid fuels globally, we believe. But oil and gas will thus remain indispensable to energy supply over the next 2 decades, while energy not supplied from these sources will be very largely provided by coal in plentiful supply in many of the developing nations. These challenges of supply are certainly not getting any easier. We estimate that simply to meet projected oil demand while replacing lost production from mature fields in the next 20 years, the world will need to find some 50 million barrels a day of new production. And that's equivalent to around 4 new Saudi Arabias. But there's no reason to panic about this, provided we act now in securing new resources while also driving for much better fuel economy. The oil and gas is there to enable us to meet this target, but there is no doubt that finding and producing it in the deep waters, for example, is getting more difficult and more costly. The third key challenge, energy security, is a subset of the supply issue. That too is coming into sharper relief as a result of recent economic and geopolitical events. It's a well-known facet of the oil and gas market that the significant centers of production and of consumption are in different places. As demand continues to rise and supply gets more difficult, energy security is bound to become an increasing concern. It's certainly the most important energy issue in the United States, another reason why the Gulf of Mexico is so sensitive. The significant developments of new technologies such as shale gas extraction in the US may mitigate the security concerns to some extent for heat and power, but the security issues associated with oil and transport fuels remain acute. The emergence of leading economic players such as China and India, neither, in fact, over-endowed with domestic energy resources, accentuates this point. It has prompted some observers to worry about possible conflict over scarce resources between the major powers. The fourth and final challenge I mentioned is the environmental imperative. Here too, we have reached an important juncture in this particular debate about how to avert potentially catastrophic climate change. There is a pretty broad consensus around the world that if we are going to meet growing energy demand without drastically increasing environmental risks, we need to act to curb man-made carbon emissions. The question is, of course, exactly how. And recent events have also reminded us of some of the other challenges we face in the energy industry: political instability, high prices, and the impact of natural disasters and the impact they can have on energy infrastructure, and of course the effect of public and political opinion on the energy choices we're going to have to make. So in summary, there are challenges for BP, there are challenges for our industry, and for all of us as we seek to meet growing energy demand, there are challenges. Addressing these issues is central to geopolitics, technological progress, and to our economic future. But the danger is clear. If we fail to meet these challenges, we will not secure the affordable energy the world needs to continue on the path of peaceful economic growth. And we could face more conflict and the potential for environmental damage and economic chaos. So the final point I want to leave you with is that one vital key to meeting all these challenges, and Stephen referred to this earlier, is partnership. Partnership between nations to chart policy courses that are aligned and not in conflict. Partnership, not protectionism. Partnership between public and private sectors to create a stable and predictable environment for investment. Partnership between technologists and those with the resources to apply technology, and so on. But the world has overcome challenges before, and there's no reason why it shouldn't do it again. Thank you very much.